Welcome back, everybody. Very exciting times. We're about to launch Stories from the Edge Series 2. And thank you to all of those who have participated in Series 1. It was fun. Ed and I got to sit down, and I've heard a lot of the stories that Ed has told because we've been together for quite some time already. But I wanted to get them documented, and I wanted people to take advantage of, some of the learned efforts. Hey, Johnny, this is what I learned from this thing. And there was a lot of nuances that Ed brought that I hadn't realized. And so getting to listen to the stories all over again was pretty awesome. And before we launch series 2, I wanted to visit with Ed and kind of understand where this came from. Ed Suhu, you and I have been together for about 5 years now. You've been telling stories since the day I met you, and they've always been engaging, and you're always passionate about everything that you do and everything you talk about. Why is it that you tell stories? How did this come about, or where did this start from?
It started long time ago. And what I mean by long time ago is it's sort of almost a behavior that I found that I had a knack for. And the reason that I developed that knack was really survival, for one thing, right?
Really?
Gosh,
Interesting.
years ago, in elementary school, I was shaking down from lunch money, for crying out loud. And I found a number of ways to really disarm, sort of like my colleague, my peers, was to tell the stories that would kind of make them laugh, and they say, "All right, Sue, you're okay," right? And then they would just let me go,
Yeah.
right? And they go on to somebody else. So
Right.
that's another
Right.
story. But I
Well,
found that telling stories really helps people lower their wall and dilate their pupils and even kind of tilt the head a little bit, like, where are you going with this?
I have found myself in tilting my head and go, where's this coming from? Where's this going to? So, okay, younger Ed Suhu needing to tell stories, and probably uh, older Ed Suhu, more tenured Ed Suhu, taking advantage of a skill set. But storytelling in your professional career, I mean, you've done it since I've known you, and I've known you for a short time in your overall professional career. But how did that come about, or how did this become something that is a part of your repertoire as a professional guy?
What I found, in telling stories, what I found in like meeting people for the first time or trying to establish, let's say, a relationship, a lot of it is trying to help the other person see another point of view
Right.
from a non what I would call a symmetric approach.
Okay.
And the symmetric approach is one where you go straight up, right? And that's what they expect. And so they have defenses.
Yeah.
They have, biases.
Hmm.
So I use stories to break that down. And I find just the way they react to certain words, phrases, or even body language, where the story can actually sort of iterate.
Right.
And I find some very fascinating dimensions that are, I wouldn't say exposed, but more importantly, shared, because they're actually giving me, the audience is actually giving me permission to go on to the next part of the story. And I find stories to be one, they don't have to be technical. Where I've been in this business on the tech side for over a long time.
A long time.
And and when you start talking about some of the technologies, people already have a certain bias or a
Yeah.
certain knowledge set. But when you use stories that are akin or close to it enough for them to kind of gravitate to it. And one of the stories I used was going back in a time machine to visit Sir Isaac Newton, and it so happened that the artist Prince was sitting right next to him. And we're like, what? I said, let me tell you the story of serendipity and the red apple. And what's fascinating is people already have an idea of Sir Isaac Newton. They have an idea of the Prince,
Right.
but they don't know what the mashup looks like.
Right.
So what if we made up a story? What if we created something that someone can actually have the freedom to go into the story and discover something new about themselves, about the character, and even the outcome? And I think that's where the power of storytelling is so magical.
So let me double click into that,
Hmm.
because you said, what if we made up a story?
Hmm.
is storytelling learnable? I mean, is there a breakdown to how you tell a story? Is there a breakdown to how a story makes an impact? Is there a breakdown that I can maybe map out and plug in my own nuances for my story and then recant it in the appropriate setting? Is that learnable?
It is, and the learning starts with an idea of who you are. What is your style as you tell a story? I mean, Goodnight Moon is a great example. If you go on YouTube, right, and listen to Goodnight Moon, there are like 4 or 5 renditions that are really kind of fun to hear the different styles, tone, pace, intonations. Same story. But when Samuel L. Jackson does Goodnight Moon, it's very different from Susan Sarandon. What is the personality of the storyteller? Because I can't really teach you, or you can't really learn. It is your personality. So understanding yourself, in the Temple of Delphi, there's an inscription, know thyself. Start there. When you understand that centered element of yourself, you now create a personality that's unique. And the storytelling then becomes a part of that wrapper.
And I'm crazy looking forward to series two. I don't know what you have in store for us, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you, first of all, how you do you and how you poke the bear and all of the fun things that you do with your stories. So looking forward to that. Everyone else, I encourage you to subscribe to Stories from the Edge. It's our YouTube channel where we've got all of Ed's stories, the previous ones, obviously, and the future ones coming. So tune in, and subscribe. Ed, looking forward to visiting with you more.
Thanks, Esco.